Otto, written by Charles Swain and Jane Ryder, narrated by Chris Abernathy. On the outside, the Williams family appeared to be pretty normal. For the most part, they were, aside from the occasional arguments Luke and Amanda would have. The arguments, however, had become more frequent, and it was taking a toll on the children. Amanda stared emotionlessly at all the bags on the table. She was packing for two, just her husband and herself, but it felt a lot heavier, perhaps appropriately. This wasn't a trip she looked forward to, but deep down, it was probably a trip Luke didn't want either. Linda, the youngest member of the Williams family, came running into the kitchen, breaking Amanda's thoughts. "He's growling at me again, Mom." They had all just finished breakfast, and the place was a war zone. "You tell your brother that if he doesn't stop growling at you, he'll have to deal with me." Amanda stopped for a second from packing all the bags she had prepared on the kitchen table and kneeled down to face Linda. "It's not Josh, Mom. It's Otto." She pointed towards the living room. Otto, their pet, a beautiful Great Pyrenees with a rich snow-white coat, was out of sight. "Otto?" Her mother looked confused. "Now, why would that big fur ball growl at you?" Amanda ran her fingers through Linda's hair and pushed it back, revealing her face. "He's been doing it all week. I told Dad, but he didn't listen." "Don't be upset with your father, dear. You know how crazy this week has been for all of us, and we're just about to head off. The two of us haven't been on vacation for a very long time." Amanda moved in to embrace her daughter, but Linda pulled away. "He's sick. We should take him to the doctor." "We really don't have time for..." "Otto is sick. He needs to go to the doctor." Her mother stood up and walked towards the living room. She was looking to catch a glimpse of Otto, but the dog was nowhere to be seen. They were in a hurry, and this problem wasn't going to solve itself without the dog present. A car honked from outside. The sound startled her, but before she could take one of the bags from the kitchen table, Josh, the eldest child, came running inside. Sweating and breathing frantically, he wanted to say something, but had to stop for a moment. It took him a few seconds to catch his breath. "Come on, Mom," he finally blurted out. "Dad's been on my case for not carrying the bags fast enough, and you haven't even finished packing up." Amanda, leaving her daughter behind, focused her attention back on the kitchen table. They had packed so much food. How was this a vacation if they had to bring all the food and cook it themselves? It would have been easier if they just bought something on the way or ate at a restaurant. But Luke had insisted. All the better. Maybe cooking together was one last attempt at reconciliation. Maybe she wasn't giving him enough credit for trying. Amanda didn't know what to think anymore. It was all too much. A tugging snapped her attention back to reality. "Also, he told me to ask you if you forgot to pack the oregano and barbecue sauce," Josh said. Is Dad really going to be preparing all your meals? His mother looked at him unamused. When was the last time you've seen your father cook? Josh shrugged and searched for one of the grocery bags that seemed full enough so he could take it out to the car. He reached for the one in the middle, but his mother stopped him with her eyes. He, however, reached for two other ones instead. Dr. Stevenson knows how to cook, while your father knows how to boast. Now, off with you, and tell Luke that I'll be out in just a jiffy. Josh listened to his mother and proceeded to carry out the groceries to the car. What about Otto, Mom? Linda slammed her foot down, making a scene. I don't know, dear. Dr. Stevenson will be with us on our trip, so I don't see how he can take a look at Otto. He seemed fine to me. Maybe it's a sign he's just getting older and grouchier. Kind of like your father, she said in a halfway joking tone. Don't tell your dad I said that. Now, off you go. Alone again, Amanda stared at the groceries. Lost in her thoughts, she had a flashback to a conversation she had with Luke. 2 days ago, they had gone shopping, maybe the first thing they had done together in weeks. In secret, Luke and Amanda had been talking about divorce for quite some time. He thought this vacation might recover that lost time, but the damage had already been done. When did things go wrong? Luke had asked. Amanda had been holding the oregano. See, I hadn't forgotten. When your job became your world. She knew that hurt him. She didn't even have to look up. I worked so hard for you and the kids. You have no backbone. Ever since that promotion, you lost your spine. She had said it much harsher than she had meant. They couldn't even go shopping together anymore. Amanda, what the hell? No backbone. I support this family. Financially, Amanda had wanted to say more, but she didn't need to. Yes, financially, but what about emotionally? You would let us die before. But that was it. Luke had walked away, and the conversation was over. That was 2 days ago already. Otto's gruff barks brought Amanda back to the present. Linda was looking up at her again. Strange noises were coming from the living room. Amanda wanted to dismiss all of this, but just when she opened her mouth, Otto rushed into the kitchen, looked at her, barked, and ran out through the kitchen door with his tail wagging. Linda made a symbolic gesture to her mother with her hands, as if trying to say, "See, I told you." "Very well," her mother conceded. "You can take him to another veterinarian. Dr. Miller, I think. Maybe when Emily comes to watch you guys." Josh and Luke entered as she finished her thought. "Take those bags, son," Luke instructed. "I'll deal with your mother." Josh pushed the bags together and took each one in one go, balancing them on his chest. Luke then turned to Linda. "The sitter would be here in a few hours, and don't forget to listen to your big brother." Linda watched her mother look past her father and walk out the room. Her father turned to say something and then just adjusted his tie, mumbling to himself. Then they were out, and Linda was left alone in the kitchen. Otto got outside. She would have to ask her brother to help. She hated asking her brother for help, but it wasn't like her mother or father had been all that helpful lately. And don't forget to listen to your big brother. Yeah, right. When Josh came back, she was already holding Otto's leash in one hand and the muzzle in the other. It was dusty since they had only used it once on him. Their pet had always been well-behaved and affectionate, till now. They could even walk him around without a leash, and he wouldn't venture too far. "Josh, help me get this on Otto. We need to take him to the vet." Her brother looked at her like she was no more than an insect in his way. He headed directly to the fridge, took out some juice, and got some chips, and headed back to the living room. "Sorry, sis, no time for that. My favorite show is about to start. Besides, you are over-exaggerating. Otto is just going through an old dog phase or something." "Old dog phase? Josh, Otto isn't even 4 years old yet." "That's like a grandpa in dog years." "No, it's 28 years old." Linda did the math. Josh didn't even look up. Instead, he turned the volume up, drowning out the sound of his sister's voice. When Linda realized that Josh had no intention of helping her, she snatched the remote away when he wasn't paying attention. She was younger than Josh, but much quicker. "Give it back! I'm going to smash the remote to bits if you don't help me get Otto." Her voice cracked. "Seriously? Emily will be here in a few hours, and then I won't have time to watch anything." "I'm not joking, Josh. What do you care more about, that stupid show or Otto?" Seeing that his sister was not going to relent, he agreed to her terms. If he made haste, they could get the dog to the vet and be back before Emily arrived. The Great Pyrenees was rearing back and ready to pounce on anything. When they left, they saw exactly what was troubling their dog. The Robertsons' Chihuahua was on a heavy-duty picnic table, barking and moving back, while Otto was on his hind legs trying to reach him. He was clawing and shaking the table. The tiny Chihuahua was barely able to keep its balance as it tried to evade the blows of his large paws. The Robertsons must have been out of town, or they would have interfered. "Put the muzzle on him, Josh," Linda said to her big brother as they got closer to Otto. "I'll attach the leash and pull him away from the picnic table." Otto was still trying to claw at the scared little dog when Josh pulled the muzzle over his head. Distracted by the intruder, the Great Pyrenees didn't even notice when the girl attached the leash. He growled at Josh now, but Linda pulled him back. Slowly, they managed to get Otto back to the house, and once the Chihuahua was out of sight, the large beast calmed down. Josh made the call to the vet. They sent a car to get Otto. It was for the best, as the two of them didn't have the necessary force to carry him all the way to the veterinary hospital if he decided to attack another dog. The lights of the veterinarian hospital hummed dimly in the night. Security guard Jeff Winters twirled his name badge as he made his final rounds. He was a scrawny man. When he walked, he bounced, almost with youthful enthusiasm. "Boy, I could use a drink." Winters turned the corner to the side of the vet room, looking at his watch. Suddenly, he stopped dead in his tracks. Getting out the flashlight, Winters approached one of the oversized dog cages. He felt his pulse race as his feet squished in a pool of blood. The metal cage was completely bitten through. A bar was bent on its side, and another was fully in half. The corpse of a small Dalmatian remained, half-eaten. Before he could reach for his cell phone, the guard heard a low-toned growl and slowly turned to see a Great Pyrenees stalking him. Winters froze, his legs stuck to the ground. The dog wasn't just approaching, it was hunting. Otto crept up, jumped forward, and attacked the guard. In one chomp, his fangs locked onto Jeff's arm and dragged him away. The flesh tore apart as Winters wailed in pain. His body was thrashed to the ground with enough force to shake the walls. Winters grabbed for his mace, but the Great Pyrenees quickly pinned him to the ground. Otto's sharp fangs dug deeper into the guard's right arm, and the dog's fur coat started to streak of red. The sharp fangs cut through the skin like a razor through thin paper. Winters, with his eyes still frozen open in death, was dragged across the floor, his body leaving a trail of scarlet rivers. Screams pierced the room as Dr. Miller and his staff came rushing into the office. Otto, possessed like a demon, leaped forward and rushed out of the office, escaping a tranquilizer dart as if he knew exactly where he was going. "Get that dog!" Dr. Miller said. Some of the staff gave chase, but to no avail. It was so dark and murky. Otto vanished quietly into the night. The rest of the staff tended to Winters, in shock at what they had just witnessed. Dr. Miller disappeared to the next room. He made a quick call to the police, then he looked up the Williams' residence on the computer. He cleared his throat. "Linda, is that you?" This is Dr. Miller speaking. I'm calling about Otto. Get your father on the phone." The doctor waited a few moments and tried to maintain his composure, but when he thought he heard the phone changing hands, he just snapped. "Luke, your dog is possessed! I just saw him devour one of my guards. I already called the police to your home. Lock all your doors and windows. Or better still, see if you can stay somewhere else tonight. Some dogs have a very good memory and can recall with a great precision where their owners reside." The voice on the other line trembled. "There is no other place to stay. I got a ride from a friend who is supposed to pick me up at 11. These people live out in the middle of nowhere." "Isn't this the Williams residence?" The voice on the other end didn't sound like a familiar one, and Dr. Miller wanted to confirm that he had the right phone number. "Yes, I'm Emily, the sitter. Mr. and Mrs. Williams are on vacation while I take care of the kids." While on the phone, Emily made sure to lock all the doors and windows. "Is the dog rabid?" "The good news is that Otto doesn't have rabies. I ran a series of tests and they all came out negative. I don't have a clue on what is making him so demonic, but I do know he is getting worse. I'm not sure how to say this, but I think Otto is fragmenting." "I don't speak medical terminology, Doc. Give me the breakdown," demanded the babysitter. Emily sprinted up the stairs to wake the kids. "His mind is unglued. It's like he is falling apart. I was looking at some of the files, and apparently Otto was on a drug that was supposed to suppress his memory. I get the feeling that when that drug wears off, Otto is going to go through a psychotic episode." Chills suddenly ran up the babysitter's spine. "I don't fully understand what that means, but that scares the hell out of me." "It should," responded Dr. Miller, "because if Otto makes his way back home, he is going to kill you. All he will see is red, and he won't care what pain he has to endure to get to you." He hung up the phone abruptly. Emily frantically dialed back. No one answered, so she called the Williams and was greeted by voicemail. She tried calling her friends, but it was too late in the night. Emily hurled the phone across the room. "What's wrong?" Josh asked, rubbing his eyes. "Nothing." Tears were running down her eyes. "Is it about Otto?" asked Linda. They were both awake now. Emily tried to regroup. She looked at Josh. "I need to know, is your dog on some medication?" A flash of lightning jolted the three as the lights in the room flickered momentarily. Josh answered slowly, "No. Well, yeah. Otto was in a car accident," Linda said. "Shut up, you baby." Linda frowned at her older brother. Emily approached quickly and grabbed Josh. Josh continued, "We didn't think he was going to survive. He needed a heart transplant. So he got it from Legion. This other dog, he was a Siberian Husky or something. The dog was mean as hell. His owner beat him and locked him in a cage." "Why does all of that matter?" Josh paused for a moment, his hands shaking, but ignored the question. "Because he wanted that dog as vicious as possible. The owner put it into dog fights to make money, so he would hit the dog over the head with shovels, bats, and iron pokers. Heard he even used barbed wire to lock its muzzle shut." "Josh, why is Otto acting differently all of a sudden?" Josh dropped his head and stared at the floor. "You know something, don't you, Josh? Out with it!" "It's Otto's medication. The memory suppressors. It looked like he was getting better, so I didn't think he needed it anymore. I told Dad I gave Otto his medication every day this past week, but I've been throwing the medication away." "What's wrong with you?" shouted Linda. "What's wrong with you?" Josh replied. "Every single day since Otto was doped up on those meds, he hasn't been himself, and you know it. Just laying around all day like some kind of lifeless puppet. That's no way to live. So I did what I thought was right." Emily's voice was a whisper. "Josh, you have just signed our death sentence. Legion has taken over your monster." "Hold up. You can't honestly think that Legion is controlling Otto." Lightning struck again, and this time, the lights didn't flicker back on. Linda screamed, and Emily reached out to find her hand. Josh's voice cracked as he stifled his own fear. "Wait a minute. Why the hell did you bring us all the way up here? We're on the 3rd floor, and there is no escape route if Otto breaks in." "Calm down, Josh," said Linda. "No, we're sitting ducks up here," said Josh as he stormed out of the room in a blind panic. "Josh, get back here," yelled Emily. Josh was now halfway down the first flight of stairs. Emily was engulfed in darkness. The sudden silence was unnerving. Out of instinct, she took out her phone to make some light and then had Linda follow her. Her cell phone had a light app as she made her way through the darkness. Dark shadows loomed from within the house. Every flash of lightning made Emily feel like Otto was going to strike. She tried to comfort Linda, who was shaking in fear while dealing with her own inner terror. The gut-wrenching fear of knowing every step she took that she could be ripped to shreds. As she carefully moved through the dark to find Josh, she paused at every corner. What if Otto is already here? The great white beast would surely devour them alive, and the sound of rain could easily drown out the sound of his footsteps. Thunder rang overhead, and the house shook with a monstrous thud. Emily screamed again, dropping her phone down the staircase. She watched helplessly as the light fell away, hitting the wooden floor with a loud thud. The light instantly shut off. There goes the 6 months of my babysitting salary. She treads carefully and kneeled down to retrieve the pieces. Using her fingers to touch the surface, it seemed that the screen was still intact and only the back had fallen off. Crawling on the floor, she looked for it. She found it next to the entrance door. Relief washed over her. Emily stood up when something smashed against the door, the impact echoing loudly. She fell back down again. Backing up, finding Linda's hand on her own. The door was making a strange sound, as if someone was trying to claw inside. Then it swung open. It was Josh. "You see, doesn't it make much more sense to hide here?" Josh gestured to the cellar, which had 2 exits. "If Otto shows up and breaks down the door, we can escape through the other one. I had a heck of a time, though. This side was jammed, so I had to walk around and open the door from the outside." "Josh, did you close the door on the other side?" asked Linda. Goose flesh formed across Emily's back as she was backing away from the doorway, still on the ground. The 3 froze as they heard a low-toned growl coming from the cellar. It was getting louder. Footsteps came from the other side of the room. Emily then quickly got up to her feet and shot the light in front of her, revealing the Great Pyrenees covered in blood. Josh tried to slam the door quickly but was too late as the dog pried it open. His low-toned growl turned into a vicious roar. "Run!" Emily grabbed the children's hands and bolted back upstairs. Otto was faster, pouncing ahead and bowled them over. The dog would tackle Emily just as she made her way up the final step, causing her to fall over the stair rail. When Emily hit the floor, it caved in and she fell into the basement. Otto was still at the top of the stairs, looking down at Emily. She looked dead, not even moving a muscle, so Otto directed his attention at the children. Josh had taken his sister to the other room, bolting the door. He heard loud thuds as Otto slammed against the other side. Linda was panicking, and Josh was not far from his own breaking point. The loud thuds of Otto trying to break through the door ensued. The door was starting to crack, and the children would scream. Otto was livid, beyond any care that he was self-harming in the process. "Grab something," he said, pushing over the bookshelf. Linda grabbed a lamp and started barricading the door. "Get the bed." Josh ran to the side of the bed, starting to push it in front of the door. Furniture rattled, and shelves toppled over as Otto's snarls became clearer through the barricade. "We have to jump," he said. "Are you crazy? It's a 3-story fall. We're done for anyway if Otto catches up to us. I would rather fall than be eaten alive. Now come on!" He opened the window and kicked the screen. It wouldn't budge.
He frantically kicked it again and again. Finally, it broke open and led to the roof. Momentarily, he had a second thought. The rain didn't help, creating less traction on the roof. The children tread carefully, and Otto was almost through the door to their room. "I'm open to ideas, Josh," shouted Linda, but Josh was stumped and couldn't think of any as they reached the edge of the roof. "I don't have any good ideas." Josh's foot slipped on a shingle, but he balanced himself. Looking behind, he saw Otto was almost through the door to the room. "It doesn't have to be a good idea. I'm willing to listen to any idea at this point. Just think of something." Josh and Linda's time was running short. They could hear Otto viciously trying to tear the door to their room. Death was drawing near as the door started to break open. Any sign of hope faded into obscurity. "What do we do?" Linda clutched at her brother's arm. "I don't know." Otto had viciously torn the door into pieces and was crawling over its remains. A few moments later, Otto was in the room and then darted towards the window. The Great Pyrenees inspected his surroundings, his fur coat standing on end as a streak of dark red ran through it. His stained coat brushed through the glass, leaving trails of blood. The rain dampened Otto's fur as his eyes gazed and looked everywhere. The only sound was that of the storm picking up. Ever so quiet Josh and Linda were as Otto approached. Both of the children stayed undetected by the great white monster. As it turns out, Josh had taken up Linda on her idea when she said she was willing to listen to any idea he could think of. It so happened that both of the kids were still on the roof, but only by clinging onto the edge of it with their fingers. Otto would turn around and start inspecting the other side of the roof. The rain had picked up, dampening Otto's footing. The sound of the storm picked up too. Otto was searching frantically, but nothing was visible. The children hung on, too afraid to move. Finally, Linda said, "I'm going to fall." At the sound, Otto turned. A wicked snarl appeared across his muzzle as he slowly stomped across the puddle-filled roof. Josh thought he could see the devil in his eyes. "Otto!" The voice didn't come from either of the children, and Otto's head was about to turn. At that moment, the Great Pyrenees was pushed off the roof by the mysterious voice. Josh and Linda were too afraid to look down as the dog's body descended, and they heard a loud thud. When they looked down, they saw Otto's lifeless body on the pavement covered in blood. The nightmare finally seemed to be over. Josh tried to hoist himself up, but he couldn't get a strong enough grip. Suddenly a hand appeared in front of Josh. It was Emily. She pulled him up, and they turned to hoist Linda up as well. "You're alive," Josh said to Emily. Both Josh and Linda looked very happy to see that the babysitter was still in one piece. Still shaking with fear, they stood close to her side. When Linda tried to hug her, the babysitter stepped back. "I think a few of my ribs might have broken from the fall." Understandingly, both Josh and Linda kept their distance. Then Josh asked, "Was that a demon that possessed Otto?" "If Otto had caught you, I think even a demon would have more mercy," Emily said. The babysitter was about to suggest they all get down from the roof when she heard police sirens. They were getting louder. Then Emily and the kids saw police cars pull into the driveway. Shortly after, Dr. Miller arrived in a police vehicle. As if it wasn't crowded enough, Mr. and Mrs. Williams showed up. One police car was moving far up into the driveway, and Linda would shout, "Stop! You'll hit!" She was at a loss for words when she looked down, and Otto was gone. "Hit what?" the officer said, looking out his car window. Josh and Emily were also stunned, looking around in a blind panic. Police surrounded the home and started to make their way in. "Are you all right? Are you hurt?" Luke yelled at the top of his lungs. Everyone on the roof fell into paranoia. Luke didn't get an answer. Sensing their fear, he would shout, "Is Otto still alive?" No reply. That question just frightened them more. "Is he still here?" Luke asked. Again, no answer. "Answer me! Is he still here? Is he in the house?" A shriek would come from Linda. "I don't know!"